There we go. Welcome, everybody. I'd like to begin by acknowledging, as we always do, that we're meeting here in Australia on Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander land. Sovereignty of this land was never ceded. This land was taken without consent, without treaty, and without compensation. And I pay my respects to elders and leaders, past, present, and emerging, of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, traditional owners, First Nations all across the continent. I'm on Gundungurra and Darug land, where we say, Warami Gamarada, welcome comrades. I'm very excited to have Elira Davis with us tonight, but before we get into that, I'll just give you a bit of information about the event while people are piling in, and a quick intro for Elira, and I'll tell you a little bit about search, and then we'll get started. So I'll give, after this intro, of course, Elira will speak, and then after that we'll have questions, which I encourage you to submit in the Q&A section. The Q&A section is slightly preferable to the chat section. I know a lot of people are used to using the chat, but slightly better if you can use the Q&A section. The chat section is open for everyone, so please use it responsibly. We'll wrap up then on the hour. We try and keep these to exactly an hour so people can go and have dinner. As you know, you are muted unless you're called upon to ask a question. After you've asked your question, please mute yourself again if I don't remember to do that. When you write your question, submit your question, let me know if you'd like to ask the question yourself. So we'd like to see your face and get you on camera, but of course you don't have to. I can ask it on your behalf. So a quick intro to Search for those who don't know much about us. Search is a membership-based democratic socialist organisation that links and enables socialist activists across different progressive movements, different political parties, and across generations, all across the continent. Our members come from diverse backgrounds, but we have common aims and values summarised in our goal of democratic ecological socialism. We run socialist education programs, we publish news and views at search.org.au and on Facebook and Twitter and all the rest of it. And we put on events like this one. So I encourage you to like the Search Facebook page to keep up with our events, and go to search.org.au if you're interested in applying for membership, or simply to get in touch with me to talk about what Search does. Our contact details are on the website and on our Facebook page. We're also long-standing supporters of the Uluru Statement, and we have an active working group dedicated to campaigning for Voice Treaty Truth. If you go to that search.org.au website, you can volunteer for that working group. So now to introduce Elira Davis, our guest for tonight. Elira Davis is a proud Cobble Cobble woman from the Barrungum and Birrigubba nations of South-East Queensland. Please correct my pronunciation if I got that wrong, comrade. I'm from New South Wales, so I don't hear those names as much as I might. And is also of South Sea Islander descent from Ambae and Tanna Islands. Elira is the co-chair and manager of the Uluru Youth Dialogues, which works closely with the grassroots Uluru Statement from the Heart movement, and is focused largely on ensuring Indigenous youth voices are given a platform to be heard. She manages, builds and connects Uluru Youth in promoting and educating Australians on the Uluru Statement from the Heart. She's been very active in campaigning for Voice Treaty Truth in the wider community, travelling across the country, speaking in the media and lobbying politicians, amongst many other things. It's wonderful to have you with us tonight, Elira. So to kick us off, why are you campaigning for the Uluru Statement and Voice Treaty Truth, and why is 2022 the year to make it happen?
Oh, thank you so much, Luke. Yeah, it is Birrigubba and Ambae Islands. So just to correct you, but I completely get it. When I went, I was actually living down in Canberra for a bit, and the New South Wales mobs, some of those mobs, I was like, I don't know where is what, but no, yeah. So thank you so much for having me. Yeah, so I've actually recently moved back to Brisbane, my home country, and I was residing in Canberra for about 5 years, working in the private and public sector. And as you said, I'm the co-chair and the youth manager for the Uluru Youth Dialogue. So very exciting for me. But I would firstly also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that we are all meeting on today. I am on Yugambeh country. I want to acknowledge the footprints that have stood here before us, recognising the ancestral spirits of our First Nations people who created the boundaries, waterways and lands which allow safe passage to visitors throughout our country. I would also like to pay my respects to elders past and present, and as well as any other Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people on this call today. Also just want to hope everyone is safe and sound. My heart goes out to all the people that have been affected by the floods throughout South-East Queensland and northern New South Wales. Sending my love and prayers. So yeah, to give a bit of context and a bit of background, I have been involved in the Uluru Statement journey since the beginning. I did attend the Brisbane Dialogue. Unfortunately, I couldn't attend the Constitutional Convention. However, I continue to show my support and commitment to the mandate of the Uluru Statement, Voice, Treaty, Truth, via previously volunteering, but now full-time work for the dialogues as a youth manager. So that's been very exciting. I've been on a lot of events and fairs promoting and making people aware of what the Uluru Statement is and what we're trying to call for, the First Nations voice enshrined in the Constitution. So good question, why I am campaigning and supporting the Uluru Statement from the heart is, there's a couple of reasons. The process of the Uluru Statement journey is one of its own kind, meaning the structure and the process hasn't been done before. The voice is the only substantial change on the table at the moment, and the only option on the table at the moment, and also the importance of our young people to be involved in this process, but also in general society. So as I said, Uluru Statement, the Uluru Statement process has been one of a kind processes. The structure was well thought out with the 13 dialogues to consult with the First Nation peoples, also held by Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander land councils. And from those dialogues, over 250 First Nation delegates got picked fairly to represent their mob at the Constitutional Convention at Uluru. From there, the very robust discussions led to the 3 reforms that you now hear of from the Uluru Statement from the Heart, being voice, which is the permanent voice, First Nations voice enshrined in the Constitution, treaty in each state and territories which will be implemented after the voice, and truth, a truth-telling process under a Makarrata Commission, which would work to enable local communities to assist them in process and control their truth. This overarches both reforms, voice and treaty. I think the most empowering element is the concept of the voice, and you can feel the powerful call when reading the Uluru Statement. You realize the message is very simple in that way that, you know, we just want a voice. We want a voice over the laws and policies that affect us. And why having a voice first instead of treaty, it's important to understand the different powers that come with having a treaty and being in the Constitution. Yes, we're the only country without a treaty with our First Nations people, but the treaty should have been established when the settlers first got here. We are past agreement making, which is why it came second throughout the dialogues, but we need substantial change if the voice is enshrined in the Constitution, and it cannot be removed without calling a referendum. I just want to note, people do question if our sovereignty will be ceded if we sign over to the Crown. We never ceded our sovereignty. The High Court has already said that sovereignty is a matter of the Australian government and First Nations. There is nothing that can be done in the Constitution that can impact that. Our sovereignty comes from our law, doesn't come from white man's law. Having a voice doesn't legally cede our sovereignty. An enshrined voice in the Constitution does not hand over our sovereign rights. The Constitution in 1901 did not, the 1967 referendum did not, the Mabo decision did not. The only way sovereign rights are given up is if we give them up. In a treaty process, there will be discussions because treaty does require First Nations to give up sovereignty. However, you know, that's how treaty works. But in saying that, the well thought out process of the Uluru Statement journey has been strategic, smart, and very powerful for our people, and I'm very privileged to be on this journey. So the Uluru Statement is the only thing on the table right now, and it's substantial change and structural reform. We need to stop tippy-toeing around basically and fight for what's right. We need a seat at the table, not behind, not at the back, but at the forefront of policymakers, change shakers and leaders. The time is now for change. The mandate of the Uluru Statement is empowering and is a self-determination process for our First Nations people. I believe the Uluru Statement is the way forward. I commit to the Uluru Statement because I don't want my little brothers and sisters fighting the same fight, but also having to work 10 times harder than everyone else when they grow older, or because the colour of their skin prevents them from succeeding, or having to work 10 times harder than anyone else, or ensuring justice is served for our brothers and sisters lost in deaths in custody. I feel that the Uluru Statement calls for self-determination and empowerment, and every time I am around the Uluru Statement, I feel powerful. The government now wants to first legislate the voice and then second enshrine the voice in the Constitution. This will not work. To take a look back at history and why the Uluru Statement is different to any other, we call for an enshrined voice in the Constitution for a reason, so it's permanent and legitimate. Legislating a voice will not work. Legislation can be torn up. We need a voice where it won't and can't be abolished. As said before, the whole concept of the voice is to be able to make decisions on behalf of our communities and change policies that don't work for us. We are still holding hands with government, but we need to be the leaders of our future. Our elders and leaders have been fighting for our rights and voice for many years. For years, our voice has been voiceless. We put voices back into government's hands and it gets nowhere. Mind you, it always has been in government's hands. We don't want history repeating itself if the voice is legislated. For example, in 1972, National Aboriginal Committee, Consultative Committee abolished in 1977. In 1977, National Aboriginal Conference abolished in 1985. In 1989, ATSIC abolished in 2005. And in 2004, National Indigenous Council abolished in 2007. This doesn't seem fair to our people who have fought and survived since colonisation. Uluru Statement from the heart is a gift for the Australian people to walk with us on a journey for equality and self-determination for our people. The statement calls for constitutional recognition and the three elements, which is voice, treaty, truth, in that order. We are only 3% of the population, but we need the 97% to walk with us for a better future with a protected First Nations voice. Speaking of a better future, lastly, leading to our young people. The Uluru Youth Dialogue was created to engage our young people in this journey and to give them an opportunity to have a voice. My co-chair, Bridget Karma, and I thought our young people needed a voice in this process, and we hope we've given that to them. Prior to COVID, we did hold a youth summit in December in 2019 in Cairns, which went for, about 3 days, engaging with youth all over the country, educating them about the statement, the Uluru Statement, and actions that they could take back to their community on how to make people aware in their community about the Uluru Statement and what we're trying to call for. One of, I think, the special moments from the summit was not only the calibre of intelligent and deadly young people we had and the energy that was there, but travelling to Yarrabah and to visit the Tree of Knowledge, and we visited 1967 referendum campaigner Uncle Alfie O'Neill. And it really puts it in perspective how much he fought for his rights and our rights in this country, and how monumental the 1967 referendum was. We owe it to him and the elders that have passed on to make change and to at least continue to try change the system. We still have most youth involved, doing things in their communities, helping out with national events and participating in panels, webinars and interviews regarding the Uluru Statement. One of the most recent events that we were involved with was the NRL All-Stars game, which is, I think, our 3rd consecutive year, which is pretty exciting for us, running the stall and mini activation. We handed out some merchandise at the game and we educated people on the Uluru Statement. As young people, as Black young people, we have an obligation and a responsibility to continue the fight of our ancestors. We have to fight to take back our right in our country for our ancestors to lay at rest in peace. We have to continue to stand for what we believe in. We individually, as First Nation people, become a part of a political theory of the three powers of government: power to make laws, power to carry out and enforce laws, and power to interpret laws. First Nation people are at the forefront of Indigenous issues. We will have a seat at the table and have a say in what happens to us. And portraying that message to our youth is important because it's our future on the line and the generations after that. In conclusion, the Uluru Statement is a way. It mentions topics that we need to change, such as the high incarceration rates of our people, our children in out-of-home care. We have the momentum to push for something substantial. It may not stop racism, however, it will prevent the injustices we experience to this day. Our kids in out-of-home care will be in homes with our people. Our people will get the same opportunity as a non-Indigenous person. These issues will be resolved, and I strongly believe that. There is a gap, and the Uluru Statement is the big thing that's going to close it. It's not going to solve everything, however, it's a start. The Uluru Statement will help Australians and First Nations people walk together, not in front or behind. Government forces many policies and frameworks on Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people within communities where they don't have any experience and are not the experts. The Constitution is never meant to be changed unless a referendum is held, and in which only 4 out of 67 have been successful, and one of them including the 1967 referendum. Our people have been talking about a voice for decades, but the process and how the dialogues were run was never heard of, and this is what's exciting and empowering about it. It's time for us to make our decisions and be the leaders of our future. The fact that the Constitution can't be changed is the change in itself. Our life is not a trend. Please, you have to be part of the struggle. Respect, reflect, remember whose land you're walking on, and respect the First Nations people and our culture. Reflect and assess your privilege. The time is now for change, ladies and gentlemen, to challenge the system and to have structural reform so our children will flourish. The Uluru Statement from the Heart is the answer, and I believe it will save people's lives. Continuing the momentum is key, and ensuring we as a nation are making impactful change, because this is a matter of urgency. We don't want to take baby steps anymore. We need a change to happen in our lifetime. To conclude my little speech, I wanted to end on a short poem. I'm a bit of the creative type, and this is kind of how I portray how I feel as well. So this is just a poem about voice, treaty, truth. Voice, treaty, truth. That is what we call for. Let's change the rules. Let's make some noise. Let them know it all. Voice, for the people that are not heard. For Australians to listen word for word. Treaty, negotiate in each state and territory. And truth, that let our ancestors rest in glory. We will be here till the end of time. We are the oldest, longest living, surviving culture in the world, and that is no lie. We rise like the sun, move like the ocean. Our ancestors' spirits hold the heart to this land, like Mother Nature guards country in her hand. We will be here, we will stand. And one thing to always remember, always was and always will be, Aboriginal land. Thank you.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much for that. We're getting lots of questions from people directly in the Q&A and also in the chat. People saying, thank you, beautiful poem. Thank you, Elira. It was impassioned, wonderful talk. And it's great getting lots and lots of people have joined the event. We've got about 60 people with us already. So thank you very, very much for that. One of the things, we've had a number of events around this. We had Pat Anderson and Nolan Hunter last year. Our comrade friend Thomas Mayer brought the Uluru Statement to a meeting of ours of members, I think back in 2017. may have been early 2018. And just a bit of an update. You mentioned how the government is looking to legislate first. Some people may not have heard that. So if you just want to quickly expand on the sort of the news on that front, what you understand where they're up to, what they're going to do, and you know, how that's being combated, I suppose.
So yeah, so the government created this co-design process. Sorry, Ken White's created this co-design process where it's very similar to what I guess the Uluru Dialogues was, but they created this process where they wanted to, you know, understand what everyone kind of wanted, First Nations people, and they went to the each kind of state and territory and did similar things of what the Uluru Dialogues was. And basically everyone did say that they supported the Uluru Statement, and they supported a First Nations voice enshrined in the Constitution. Fast forward to now, they put out an interim report that stated they wanted to legislate a voice instead of enshrine a voice in the Constitution. And it's similar to what basically we've had in the past where, you know, for example, like ATSIC, bodies can be abolished if it's legislated. So yeah, my understanding is that the government is trying to do something similar, but they want to legislate it instead of actually enshrine it in the Constitution. So it's not actually permanent or legitimate.
Thanks for that. Good to have an update. A lot of people are asking straight away, how can people connect with local youth? Shani Rich has asked that. Ostramatics asked, what's the cutoff for youth? Who counts? So I suppose along that line, if you're not young like me, how can you connect? What's a good way to connect with people doing stuff in their local area, especially now, hopefully, fingers crossed, some of the COVID restrictions have been lifted and so forth?
Yeah, so that's amazing, because we really need, you know, a lot of manpower and people to help out with events and whatnot. So we do have a link on our website where it says Uluru Youth Network. So you can sign up there. We're getting non-Indigenous people to sign up as well. So feel free to sign up and let us know, you know what you want to do and how you want to help out. There is easy ways to help out. Oh, I should say, sorry, the youth the youth bracket, or age criteria is from 18 to 30, but we might bump it up to 35. Me and Bridget are still working it around. We're kind of just did what we could for our young people and just went with it. So but yeah, the age bracket is 18 to 30. But yeah, no, please reach out via our website as well, and I'm sure my details will be on here. I love to receive new emails from new people. I'm a friendly face, so please, yeah, if you want to help out, just let us know. And all of our contacts, I'm pretty sure, are on our new website. It just got updated recently, so go check it out. It's ulurustatement.org.
Awesome. I'll put the link in the chat as well. I've got it up right here. A lot of our members and probably lots of people on the call have signed the statement there and signed up there. So I encourage, I'll put the link in there and get them to come back to that to see the updates as well. One thing which I wanted to delve into a bit more, and you talked about it, which was that it's the only thing on the table right now, the only substantial structural change. Again, there's people on the call who campaigned in 1967, and I was around for a slightly different campaign, which is the referendum on the Republic. I was living and working in Redfern at the time, and that a lot of people said because it wasn't perfect, they were going to vote against it and not get behind it. And we haven't had a chance to come back to that issue. And I think we should address it after this has been addressed. But I think a lot of people don't realise that sometimes you only get one shot at things. If you lose momentum, it can mean that you don't get another go it for a long time. So what, when you say that it's the only major structural thing on the table at the moment, just go into that a little bit more for us.
Yeah, so, and this is what I explain to people too. I mean, you're right, you only really get one shot at it, and we've learned a lot from our senior leadership of, we just have to ramp up the campaign and really go hard if we want to have a good chance at this. And I believe Australia is behind us. Taking it back to the co-design process, I think it was like 80% or like 90% of submissions to that process was they support a First Nations voice enshrined in the Constitution, and they gave their reasons. So I think, I haven't ever been involved, or I don't think been around when a referendum was around, so this would be my first, and that's obviously probably a lot of our young people as well. So it's really history making in the process, which is the most, I think, exciting thing. But yeah, you really only get one shot at changing the Constitution. So it does cost a lot of, money as well. And it does affect, how things are. But I think it's very exciting to be involved in this. And it's very, very hard to get a referendum. So if we go hard once, we don't have to do it again. And First Nations peoples can have a voice for policies and laws that affect them, and have a voice in their communities and at the top level.
Thank you for that. So I was just sending a message to some of the people who've asked a question. Just a reminder, if you've got a question you want to ask it yourself, let me know so I can get you on screen and you can ask it yourself. I'm actually sending Deb Dernan, who's very active in our Search Foundation Voice Treaty Truth working group, if she'd like to ask the question that she's put in the Q&A herself. A couple of people asking about, the Hunter Community Alliance would love for local First Nations leaders and youth to talk to our members about how they can support the campaign. I think that's Lawrence Callum will put you in touch with Allira and get that happening. Someone asked, what about under 18s? Is there anything for them? Can they get involved as well?
So we're still working through that. However, we do have a school supporter kit in the works. So we're trying to get that, people coming just out of school and who's just about to vote, because I think it's very important. I think young people don't, obviously me being young, if I wasn't involved in this, even knowing, what the government does and how the government works, and if I didn't live in Canberra, I wouldn't basically know anything. So we're trying to sort out a school supporter kit for people to get involved, and we can even try and do some sort of kind of youth network with that as well. But that is definitely in the works and it's coming. So stay tuned and watch this space.
Very good. Yeah, lots to do, lots of people to get involved and help. Lots of volunteers needed. So make sure you sign up at ulurustatement.org and through us as well, through search directly to Allira. We're not hard to find. We can pass you on to the right people if you would like that. But of course, you can also follow Allira on Twitter and contact her in other ways as well. Question about the politics. So obviously we know that there is pretty overwhelming support amongst Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander people. There's pretty good support amongst the wider community as well. But we also know there are people opposed to the idea of voice treaty truth, or particularly putting the voice first. So Deb Dernan asks, she says, thank you, Allira, for speaking to us tonight, and asks, what is your understanding of the Greens party position should a referendum be put during the next term of Parliament? Do you think they will support it, and will they campaign for a yes vote? Our members have spoken to some Green politicians and Greens members at local council level who say they're fully in support, but our understanding of the official position is they're calling for a treaty first. What do you understand is their current position, and will they support a campaign for a yes vote in the next term of Parliament?
I basically know the same thing. But if it does get up, you'd be silly not to support it, support the voice especially. But yeah, that's basically my understanding too. I know that there's obviously a lot of the Greens, they support it, but treaties first. But we're trying to educate people on why voice should be or is first in the Uluru Statement sequencing. So yeah, we do have, within lobbying in our team, we have lobbied a lot of other politicians from different parties as well that are in support. So I think it just yeah, just takes us to go different avenues as well, and trying to get different people to support it. But yeah, surely they would, if it does get up, they would support a First Nations voice enshrined in the Constitution.
Silly not to, as you said. Bit of a change of tack. Good question from Vanessa Graff. Thank you for this. She says, thank you, Elira. You're a deadly young Black leader. We'll agree with that. The truth-telling process is so important. Can you explain in some more detail how the Uluru Statement envisages the Makarrata process would work?
Yeah, definitely. Hi, Vanessa. I'm pretty sure it's the right one. I used to work with Vanessa, so it's amazing to hear from you. Yeah, so obviously the Makarrata Commission will be overarching the voice and treaty aspects, and it's basically helping Australia know the truth about our First Nations peoples and our culture and our history. Throughout the dialogues, truth was one of the big ones, obviously being in the sequencing, but yeah, truth, our elders and our senior leadership just wanted people to know the truth about this country, because obviously we are recognised, but we're not recognised. You know, everyone knows we are the First Nations, the traditional custodians of this land, but there's no formal kind of thing to say that. So that's why the Makarrata Commission will be overarching that, and yeah, just understanding the real truths about this country and stolen generation, and you know, the statistics of why our people, you know, the way we are. So yeah, that would be our overarching to help our voice be heard.
A couple of more questions around you know, getting people involved. Jackie Whidden, our Search Vice President and co-convener of our Voice Treaty Truth Working Group, asked, what do you think are the best strategies to get young people involved? You've obviously got a bit of experience. What are the best strategies for getting young people involved?
Yeah, so we've Bridget Karma and I, how we created the youth dialogue was kind of just reaching out to people and networking. So, you know, sometimes young people aren't as motivated as we should be, but I mean, I'm the same, but it's just about making sure you engage them and reach out via email and you know, even reach out via Instagram, just ways to get them to come on board. A lot of people are a bit iffy about, some young people that I've spoken to were kind of unsure about the Uluru Statement and what it calls, what we call for. But you know, I've spoken to them. I've had genuine conversations with them, and now they're fully on board. You know, they're doing stuff in their communities. So I think, in my experience of, you know, managing the Uluru Youth Dialogue, is having those genuine and those connections and those relationships to really let them know that, you know, this is going to change. Like, this is going to be, you're going to be part of, you know, history, basically.
Question from Jeff. Is there a network of Uluru Statement campaign groups that you know of in many local communities? And what can we do at the local level? For example, he lives in Central Australia. What can he do to build a network there? And what are some of the best resources available for people hoping to do that?
Yeah, so we have a heap of resources on our website. However, I think also our team is mentioned on our website as well. So feel free to reach out to us, and, you know, we're happy to, happy to come to Central Australia and then talk about the statement. I think people do yeah, it's just about educating people, because, you know, some people just don't know what it is, or, you know, they hear about the Constitution, they're like, oh, like they kind of frighten away from getting involved and hesitate. So, yeah, I think just reaching out to us, and definitely one of us can get back to you and set up, you know, some time to talk about it. But yeah, we're all here to help, and we're all, that's basically what my job is to network and educate people on this issue that's obviously going to be major if you know, if we actually get up and win. So,
well, we've got about 50 people online, I think, who will all be keen to talk to you. So you got which is really good.
I can see that, yeah.
Yep. I've just posted I posted the website previously, but also just the Uluru Youth Network particular part of the website. And you got a lot of veteran campaigners here who are full of energy, which is really good.
Amazing.
Sam Altman, also very keen search activist, convener of our Climate Action Working Group. Any working links with other First Nation youth groups, for example, the Seed Mob?
So we have reached out to Seed a couple of times. And I know that because we are part of the Indigenous Law Centre at UNSW at University of New South Wales, there is a couple of people who are involved with that, and we do have a lot of youth who are involved with Seed. However, obviously different agendas and whatnot, and just very busy, but when we can come together, we would. But we definitely have reached out here and there. It's just timing. I think everyone's really busy and obviously trying to fight the good fight on different things. But yeah, there's definitely will be a connection hopefully soon.
Standing by. Lawrence asked an interesting question, Lawrence Callan. Some local First Nations leaders in the Hunter are not keen on Uluru Statement and voice as a priority. They're focused on what they call more practical things, education, jobs, etc., or they support treaty as a priority first. He asks, as white non-Aboriginal people, we want to be in solidarity with local First Nation leaders. This makes it difficult for him to campaign on the voice position. Any advice on how to negotiate that situation?
Yeah, and I think it's, you know, very important. Like obviously they're expressing their opinion and their voice, which is literally the concept of what we're trying to achieve. But what we try to say to people, you know, it's the top, like once we're in the big book of laws, we're in. And I think that's why, you know, the Uluru Statement and the journey, it's been so strategic and, you know, smart for us, because it's kind of worked out a way to do a top-down approach. And, you know, once we have a seat at the table, as I said, not in front or behind, like it's beside, and we have a seat at the table, we can actually inform people and you know, make laws and policies on what affects us. So I think, you know, it is hard, but just mentioning that if we are at the top and have a seat at the table, we can influence all the other policies, all the other sectors. So education, out-of-home care, incarceration rates, all the policies that are around that, we can change that. And I think the big thing is, you know, being a part of having a permanent and legitimate voice in the Constitution will help us change a lot of things that, you know, affect us and, you know, affect the factors in our communities.
Yep. This is a bit not niche, but people might say it's a bit of a semantic thing. But I've heard from you know, campaigners who Dean Parkin, others who've been obviously working at the strategic level to get this up. That you know, big numbers of people are very supportive. Big numbers of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, really good numbers for the wider community as well. You know, there's big support for this as a practical step to address some of those things that you just said, that it's going to, it's a practical and doable thing that we can make, you know, literally make people's lives better, as you said, save lives. One little thing that people mentioned in that, and there's been a bit of discussion amongst search members who always want to do the right thing, is the nomenclature, the way that we refer to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. A lot of people, in my acknowledgement, which I think I got help from Thomas Mayer on, mentioned First Nations and things like this. But what I understand is that the best way to talk about this is to talk about Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, because that is, still the best way to, get across what this is about. Did you have a view or opinion about that yourself?
Yeah, I don't mind what terminology, I guess. I mean, for me, why I say First Nations, youth or people is kind of directed at the Uluru Statement and, it's collective. If I was, to talk about, sort of a lot of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, that's kind of over there. But I think First Nations, for me, is directed at the Uluru Statement. Like, I use that for the Uluru Statement because it sounds so much like, it just sounds very powerful, and it sounds like, we're a force to be reckoned with. And, when I say, First Nations, Uluru Youth, like that, for me, that sounds like, we're making change, like there's stuff that's going to happen. But yeah, I don't really have an opinion about it, but I don't mind the terminology either way. I do, in my acknowledgements, I do, acknowledge obviously the traditional custodians of land and Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. That's just how I've done it my whole life, and I learnt off my mother. So whatever mum says goes. So I just kind of, that's how I approach it.
Thank you for that. It's good to have your view on it, understand a bit more about that. I've got it's a bit of a start. I'm not sure if it's a question from Sheila Kelly. Asks, what things is the Youth Dialogue Group doing now at this stage of election campaign? We are following from the heart guidance and meeting MPs and doing public community events, etc. I don't know if Sheila's involved or if that's a question or if she's trying to answer someone else's question, but I'll throw it in there.
Yeah, so we're basically doing the same thing. So because we have our youth dialogue, we have kind of people in different states and territories where we get them to lobby in their communities. So we've got people writing to their MP. For our mini activation at the NRL All Stars a few weeks ago, we had that in Parramatta. We brought some new youth on, and we explained the Uluru Statement to them, and we got them to write a letter to their MP as well. So I think just following us on social medias and our social media platforms, but writing to your local MP is what's really key at the moment, on why you support a First Nations voice. So yeah, we're doing very, very similar things, and just trying to get the word out. I mean, our kind of strategy right now is to ramp up the campaign and make as much noise as possible. And hopefully we can do that. And we've been trying to do that with all of our other events, and yeah, just trying to do a lot of community work as well. So we do have youth working groups that are trying to implement those education resources as well. And yeah, we have a lot of plans. It's just about putting everything into place. So
2022, the year to make it happen. I suppose we've sort of alluded to it quite a lot, but obviously it's a federal election year. Search made a video with Thomas Mayer just speaking to the camera saying support candidates who support Voice Treaty Truth for the 2019 election. Unfortunately, it's still very, very relevant because it's been a slow process so far for this election, and we'll probably share that on it's on our YouTube channel. And if people want to share that on social media, that'd be a great help as well, because it's still just as relevant. But yeah, it is it's a federal election year, and it does matter, of course, who wins, because we know that one side has said they're fully in support of a constitutionally enshrined voice, one side of the binary, if you like. Are you going to be active around, directly involved in the federal election per se, or around it, trying to raise it up as an issue? for the federal election, getting the questions for debates and things like that. How do you see, your role in terms of, and the campaign's role around and within the federal election?
Yeah, I only know kind of what our plan briefly, but yeah, as I said, we'll probably be making as much noise as possible. I will be doing a lot of lobbying in our community and trying to, sorry, that's my siblings just arguing outside, if you can hear that. Yeah, trying to hopefully just get people on board. That's really all we need to do, is just get people on board. Because once the referendum is up, we just have that yes vote. So yeah, so basically just trying to do things within our communities is the most important, but also like on a national level as well. For the youth, we're planning to do a lot of stuff with that. So and getting people to do actions within their communities on how they can make people aware and educate people on the Uluru Statement.
Cool. Question from Bob Boughton, our other co-convener of our Voice Treaty Truth working group. As I said, you can go on the search website, search.org.au, if you want to get involved in our working group, especially if you're a search member. There's a button to volunteer there. Bob asks, the Get Up First Nations group, do you know if they're supporting the campaign?
I'm not sure. I can definitely check with our with our team, but yeah, I'm not too sure on that.
No worries. Yeah, we have, I think a few of our members are also signed up for Get Up as well, and they've got a bit of campaigning capacity, so it'd be good to know what they're doing on it. We're getting up to not too far off our ending time, so people should ask any final questions they've got in the Q&A or in the chat. One of the things which, again, we've sort of received briefings on this before and been part, supporting the campaign, is this idea of winning the referendum before it's even on. So building up the social case so that when the vote comes along, hopefully, it's more of a formality and more of a celebration rather than actually having the fight during that particular campaign. Obviously, you're doing the work amongst young people to make that happen, particularly on Indigenous, First Nations youth. Is that a strategy which you're deliberate, you're thinking about making, is that guiding you as well? What do you think?
Yeah, so we're going hard before the election. I mean, yeah, that's kind of our strategy, is to, try and to educate people as much as possible and really, get people on board. I think that's the most important thing, is to, make people aware of what's happening, especially for this, because, in our statistics now, a lot of majority of people do support a First Nations voice, and that's not just, First Nations people, that's non-Indigenous people who want to jump on board and say, how can I help? How can I do this? Which what we've seen in the chat so far as well. So, it's just about, once again, making noise and going into our communities and really kind of like, just make noise and ramp the campaign up. But yeah, we're always looking at different ways and different ways to engage people in this process, because it is exciting, and because once it hopefully goes up, we'll try and sit back and look how it unfolds. But I think we got to definitely work hard prior to the election.
I imagine there's big challenges in terms of contacting young people all around the continent, off the continent as well, offshore islands. You mentioned that you're using some of the social media platforms. I was just remembering seeing there's a woman called Katarina Lee Rowe, she's got 171,000 followers on TikTok, and I remember her getting on and saying she's a supporter of the Uluru Statement and Voice Treaty Truth, and I was really encouraged by that, because sometimes social media can be a place where you do hear some less than informed opinions about these things. So using those other channels to contact and to involve young people. I know, as you said, you've been at fairs and outside the footy matches. I love that. People know that I'm a mad Roosters supporter. I think some of my stuff is in the background here.
Oh, great. My mum's a Roosters supporter. She
Oh,
would love that. I'm a Melbourne Storm supporter, so I don't like the Roosters at all.
There we go. I got my mouse pad here. There you
I
go.
thought you were a good guy, Luke.
I've got a petition up to get the new stand at the football stadium called the Arthur Beetson stand. So people should go and check that out too. So are there innovative ways yet? Obviously you're on Twitter, the campaign's on Twitter, you're using Facebook, Instagram. Are you on TikTok as well, for those who are using it?
Yes, we are on TikTok. We have about 3 videos on there now, but we're getting more content to post on TikTok. But very exciting. I think TikTok's definitely a different platform to all the other social media platforms. But yeah, we're on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. Happy to for anyone to follow the Uluru Statement page. But yeah, a lot of our youth do make an appearance on there as well, just with their stories and whatnot. I see everyone putting their teams in now. we started something.
But what are you on about?
Yeah. But yeah, so that's definitely how you guys can get in contact with us. And we do a lot of Instagram lives as well. So we do something similar to this, but on Instagram. And yeah, it's very, very fun. We try to do, I guess, a youthful look to it as well. And yeah, it's exciting because I think social media, yeah, there's a lot of pros and cons to it, but that's also how you build and go viral as well. And that's one of the things that we tried to do when we were up at the youth summit, is, post, show people what we're all about. This is what we're trying to achieve, and let's do this for our people and our elders and ancestors.
Here. I suppose this probably is a good last question because it gives you a chance to wrap up and sort of restate, I suppose, the position. It's an anonymous attendee has asked, great presentation, Elira. What is the vision of the First Nations youth for a voice? And what is it the First Nations young people who speak to you want in terms of change?
That's a very good question. For me personally, I always question, what would I want for my little brothers and sisters? And I want them to feel like they have a place in their own country. I want them to feel like they have, a genuine connection to their land, and, all that brings, all that comes with it. And, other people do say things similar, that they always think about, the generations after them, but also the generations before them. I think our culture is a beautiful, that's what we do. We look after each other, and we fight for each other, and we stand by each other. And yeah, I think the vision for us is making sure we have a change in our lifetime. Because, some people have passed on, even who have signed the statement as well, that unfortunately hasn't seen this change. And we're going to continue to keep fighting to, hopefully, make history, and be a part of that. And I'm super privileged to be a part of that. So, yeah, my siblings are actually outside being naughty, but they're the ones I think of when I do this work, because they're my purpose, even though they stress me out as well. But they're my purpose, and I want to hopefully change, their future in a good way, and make them feel equal and self-determined in whatever they want to pursue in their life.
Thank you very, very much for that, and thank you for your talk. Thank you for your poem, which is probably the coolest thing that's happened in our series of events, online events. It's not, I'm really glad you did that. It's not easy to do that sort of thing in a public forum, and it was very, very, and everyone loves it, as you can see. I
think it's because I can't see everyone's faces too, so I'm like, not all these eyes are staring at me. So
Well, funnily enough, we used to do these as Zoom meetings where you could see everybody.
Wow.
Webinars, which is has its pros and cons because you can't see everyone's face, and it would have been nice in some ways. But we can, if you want to see everyone's faces, you can come to our other activist kind of meetings for those who are interested in who are search members. I want to thank everyone for joining us and for all your questions. I noticed people from far and wide, and thank you for putting your acknowledgements in the chat, and thank you for your questions. It's really great to see so many people who've joined us, and of course all the enthusiasm and passion to get involved. We've put as I mentioned, the Uluru Statement.org website up there a couple of times, and we are here to help connect people. So if people want to get in contact with me, I can pass them on to Elira, but of course you can contact her directly as well. This has been really inspiring for us. It's our first solo event of the year. Search is 100% committed to making 2022 the year of Voice Treaty Truth. And I'll give you the final word to say goodbye to everyone. And you're getting all the messages there in the chat as well, saying how deadly you are, and saying thanks to you. And we'll hope to have you back for further things, maybe some things in person at some point, so we can meet each other in person. But yeah, fantastic presentation, and thank you so much.
No, thank you, Luke, and everyone for joining as well. I know I have some family members in there, and I think my mom's in there as well. Hi, Mom. No, but it's been a privilege, and yeah, I definitely think everyone, you know, if you want to, if you're already behind it, you're already behind it. But yeah, this movement, I definitely think will change and will make a better future for Australia. So please reach out. I don't bite. I hope that people do want to get involved more. And yeah, as Luke said, the links in the chat. So yeah, thank you so much.
Our pleasure. And there's obviously a lot of work to do, both early on this year and also hopefully if we get a referendum up, the people will be needed to staff the polling booths presumably and do all that sort of work. So get started now, get your practice in, get talking to your neighbours, friends, and of course your MPs. And we, as I said, standing by to help you do that. And of course, so is Elira's campaign right at the heart of it. So once again, thank you everybody for attending, and stay tuned. As I said, we'll post this to the Search Foundation YouTube channel, so you can, anyone who's missed it, any young people, old people, in between people you want to pass this on to, you can give them that link and share it to your social media so they can hear from Elira, not live, but on the video, and hopefully get them all involved. Thank you all so much. Well,